Hi everyone, this is Rico Figliolini, host of Peachtree Corners Life, and today prime lunchtime with City Manager Brian Johnson. Hey Brian,
Rico, how are you?
good. Happy New Year to you. And
Same to you.
yeah, we're starting 2025. There's lots going on this year, I'm sure. We finished up a year with a lot of things. The city's, 12 years old, 12 and a half years old, and there's always growing pains to a degree, right? And things that you find that needs to be done. Um, Before we get into that, I just want to mention two sponsors we have. EV Remodeling. Uh, Eli lives here in Peachtree Corners with his family, and EV Remodeling is a remodeling company that does from design to build, expansions, adding home rooms, and renovating homes here in Peachtree Corners and throughout the metro area. You can find out a bit more about Eli's company at evremodelinginc.com. Also, Vox Populi is a new sponsor of ours. They're here also in Peachtree Corners, and they do for businesses and organizations anything that you need imprinted on. It's just amazing that you give them something, they can go and print on it and engrave it and do whatever they need to do it. So whether it's embroidered shirts like we got for Peachtree Corners magazine, or it's large vehicle wraps, or it's banners of any sort, or imprints on a mini baseball bat, and they could do anything from one to however many you need. So check them out, Vox Populi, and we welcome them as a new sponsor. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, um, it's good to see you, Brian. We were talking before this pre-show, before we started about what the topics and stuff that we want to talk about. And it's interesting. You mentioned stuff on Nextdoor Neighbor, some inaccuracies and things. So I thought I want to start there because that's how Peachtree Corners Life podcast actually started back 6 years ago, 6+ years ago. There was so many inaccuracies on Nextdoor that even after I made comments on it and people would come back at me saying, "What do you know?" and stuff, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to comment on there anymore. Rather, I started a podcast, and you came on at that point too, somewhere around there, I think. And we started talking about what was going on and putting out real facts and stuff. Um, so what have you found on Nextdoor that you want to help clarify?
Well, I will say that Rico, that again, the podcast, even the magazine, are two great resources for factual information to come out,
Yeah.
and because it's great for there to be a communication vehicle for residents to have. It's always be able to nice to throw out an observation
Mhm.
or whatever.
For sure.
The concept behind Nextdoor, you know, theoretically is good. It's the application of it that can get frustrating if you're in
Yes.
the public sector, because
Yes.
read so many things on there. Somebody will throw out, either an observation, accurate or not, or a question, and then people just start weighing in it, with so much factually inaccurate, incorrect information. The city, is not going to dive into that scrum.
Hmm.
And so this podcast and also the magazine provide a great venue for, facts to get out there. So, again, the city very much appreciates you helping to facilitate this.
Yeah.
We were talking prior to the show about a couple things that have come up of late, that, somebody will throw out an observation or something they don't like and be like, yeah, I can't believe. I think the latest one was, I can't believe the forum or the owners of the forum
Right.
are going to start charging for parking. And it's some of this I wouldn't expect everybody to know the difference, but it would be nice if somebody was like, hey, here's an observation, is this accurate, or is this instead?
Right.
What has happened on this particular issue is if you consider what we think of as the forum is a long north-south running retail, hub.
Mhm.
The south end, which would be on Peachtree Corners Circle by Trader Joe's,
Right.
that would be the south end, and then it runs up along, 141, and the north end of the entire, you want to call it developed area, is certainly East Jones Bridge. However, one very important fact, and that is the company that bought the Forum on Peachtree Parkway, which is the retail part, was North American Properties, which is now Jamestown. Their ownership stopped where Ayumi's and Jason's Deli
Mhm.
is. That's the extent of the northern end of what they own.
Right. So the
And
building, the office building that continues is really not part of the forum.
that's correct. And so for those who know, I believe that's, I think it's 3 stories, or is it 4?
I think it's four.
It might be 4. So then that 4-story commercial building,
Mhm.
and then the out parcel of, what is it, ViStar Credit Union?
Five star, correct.
Those two are not owned by Jamestown.
Yeah.
It's
The
owned
cons-
by a separate, well, ViStar is owned by ViStar. And then the commercial building is owned by a real estate investment trust, I think, somewhere up in Northeast, I think out of Boston.
yeah, the
And,
building and the parking lot
and
around
the
it.
parking lot. That's
Right.
correct. So that big parking lot that's in between the commercial building and East Jones Bridge itself,
Right.
that parking lot recently, and the city wasn't informed, and Jamestown and the property manager of the forum wasn't informed, but there was a decision made that they put out signs that said at a certain point starting in 20, I think it's starting now in 2025, that they're going to charge for parking of anything longer than 30 minutes. And there's a QR code, and I think they're using
Right.
some app. We haven't, at the city, have no idea what prompted them to do this.
Yeah.
But
I
they
mean,
decided to do it.
it's a large parking lot. I mean, I can't
It
imagine
is.
them filling up with just the people that have at the building, but maybe it does. And I know I've parked there off to the side that is on their property just to go to Jason's Deli or
Yep.
Aomi. And even before any of that construction's been going on, before they put the jewel boxes in and stuff, sometimes, we get crowded and I park there. It's just easier. Um, so I can imagine they're probably using those parking apps similar to what you see in other cities where
It,
you park in a lot and you have to put your code or scan a code that you're going to be there, and it automatically charges. So I bet you they're getting a service like that to do it. But yeah.
yes, and that's what, excuse me, it appears that they're doing. They're a private entity. They have every right to do this. Again, it's longer than 30 minutes. So if you were going to pick up something at Jason's Deli, it does not look like this would affect you
Right.
any more than it did before.
Right.
But it's just interesting how people, like on the Nextdoor thread where this came up, getting all worked up, accusing the owners of the forum retail space of,
Yes.
doing all sorts of things, or the city, or you're just like, look, it's a private property owner's right to do it.
Yes.
30 minutes, if you're just picking up something, it's still going to be okay. Or if not, just, use the app, park there, and, you're good. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not uncommon. Like you said, other cities do this in
Oh
their
yeah.
downtowns.
Oh yeah. For sure.
I mean, the fact that they're doing it and that there's traffic to a degree is usually an indication that there's enough interest in the shops and everything that
Yeah.
there's a bunch of people going. It's a good problem to
Yeah.
have, if you will. I mean, it is a problem. Sometimes
Yeah.
it can get a little bit tight in there, but you
You know,
know,
I mean, yeah, there are definitely downtown areas that do this. Savannah, Charleston,
sure.
Atlanta.
downtown Avalon, Roswell,
There you go, right.
or not downtown Alpharetta,
You mean
not
Alpharetta, right?
Avalon, but yeah, downtown
So
Alpharetta.
I mean that happens, and when there's more traffic, or when there's more density of people coming to the location, that's going to happen. I know that probably some people will say, well, the forum took away parking, and this is frustrating part of that as a byproduct. But eventually, I mean, it's better than having 17 stores empty when they originally took it. So I always look at the bright side of it, that there's good reason for this to be happening. And
There
eventually
is.
they're going to have more parking, right? Because I don't know what the timeline is, but the idea is, instead of putting the parking deck behind Belk's, it's going to
Yep.
come forward to Peachtree Parkway. Um,
And
but
it's going to be part of, to your point, it's going to be part of the dedicated parking that would be associated with the multifamily or the hotel
right,
when they go in. So, for those who are like, oh, when the multifamily goes in, parking's going to even get worse. No, the multifamily will have dedicated, structured, or parking deck parking.
right,
Same with the hotel. But as part of the construction of it, there will be additional, I would say, floors of the parking deck
mhm,
that will be open to the public.
yeah.
So that is part of that
That,
construction when it happens.
and that should make up the difference almost of the parking that was removed out of there. But yeah, I think everything takes time, right? Um, Could also park across the street and walk over the pedestrian bridge, but that's depending on what you're doing. If you're going to dinner for 2 or 3 hours, that's not a bad thing.
Right.
Um, but that you're right. I mean, next door people come in, they make comments. Sometimes it's erroneous, and then other people will pile on. So let's just keep going until there's like 100 comments. But I mean, but it is a good place to find out how the community feels about certain things, even with
Yeah, it
terrorists.
serves a purpose. It's just, it's frustrating. Then you'll end up having somebody who will put factual stuff on there.
Yes,
I know Councilman Christ is an example of somebody who's on there who does spend
absolutely.
some time putting some factual stuff.
Yep.
Sometimes he'll end up communicating with me or other members of staff to make sure the information's good, and then he'll put it there. And then, but yet people won't, they won't even read the comments before they put their comment.
Yes. Yes.
And you're just like, oh my God, it's been answered, it's been factually established
Yeah,
or corrected. And, another one of late is the Simpsonwood Park master plan update.
that's right.
That's another one that's going on where people are getting worked up about the process. And there hasn't been anything other than, if you're a fan of Simpsonwood Park maintaining more of a passive nature,
Mhm.
I would say that if you're a fan of that, then all indications right now are that there's good news, if you will. Gwinnett County, when they announced to the public that they were going to update the master plan,
Yeah.
they didn't do a great job of allaying the fears of some of the people who thought, oh my God, it could be, anything
Mhm.
from, Gwinnett County decides to put the state's biggest pickleball complex,
Right.
or other things. So Gwinnett didn't do a great job initially of kind of being like, hold on, we're not looking to do that. They wouldn't commit, and still haven't necessarily committed to this whole, oh, we're going to in totality maintain a passive park posture. But there has now been one official meeting of the advisory committee
Right.
that is, I can't, there's probably 25 people on this committee. Half of them were members of the original committee that helped Gwinnett do the master plan. The other half are new members.
Mhm.
There are two people associated with the city that are on this committee, keeping an eye on it. I'm representing the city, and then Councilman Christ was asked to be on it because he was a member of the original committee that was actually before he was even elected to city council. So we're both on there, and I can report that the county's consultant has ended up started the process of, all right, what would the committee like to recommend to Gwinnett County officially? And some of the charrette, excuse me, some of the conversation amongst the committee was all oriented to maintaining a less developed, passive nature to the park, to include Gwinnett's already removed certain things from consideration, that for those again who wanted to maintain the passivity should be happy. Like, there's not going to be things like activities that require lights at night, like those kind of things. Mountain bike trails and complex have already been eliminated from consideration. So there have been certain specific things that have been, but right now all indications are that it's merely going to be a discussion about what types of improvements to make the passive park better. Go ahead.
No, so I know that there was a big contingent of mountain bikers at one of the meetings.
There
And
was.
these public meetings are really supposed to look at what the community wants.
Yep.
So these are bikers that actually are using the park that way. They just want better trails to be able to continue using it that way. So they're not even being, they came out to say, listen, we're using it that way, but it would be great if you all could create a trail for us to use it more effectively, safely, whatever. And I know that the rest of the community didn't like that, but there was quite a few people that apparently came out for that. I don't know how
There
many.
was, which is why I mention it, is, there are some people who have been taking their bikes out there and just kind of, it's not, there's no official mountain bike trails, but there have been a few places that but Gwinnett County has been like, we're not going to invest in creating a mountain bike complex.
Yeah, it's a very expensive process.
Yes, and it takes a lot of maintenance, and so now what you're going to be seeing are the conversations around things like, hey, should some of the trails be improved such that they're like, paved versus, unimproved?
Right.
Should there be some, man-made improvements right at the river's edge that would allow people to get close or even over top of the water, almost like at Jones Bridge Park, just
Right.
up the road, you have, man-made steps that allow you to get all the way into the river. There's talk about maybe should there be some sort of a little pier or elevated walkway for a period of, that's going to be more of the conversation than should it be a massive pickleball complex, or should there be
For sure.
soccer fields put in.
So
Those have
no,
already started. So it's good, but people, I mean, we're months away from there being even a recommendation. The city's keeping an eye on it. We have representation. The city's intent is for the park to maintain again its passive nature. But what can we do to improve the passive nature of the park?
yeah,
Should the restrooms be redone? Should they be made bigger? Should there be more, rural camping, aspects of it? Those are kind
yeah.
of the things that you're going to get into, but there's just definitely a lot of people who are like, oh my God, it's going to get,
The
easy,
I
everybody, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, I can see that because of a few things, right? So I know the Boy Scouts have been using Simpsonwood Park to camp. So that's a natural thing,
Yep.
right? Bathrooms are really old. They could use improvement. Expanding, probably just because it was old, and at the time it was for a different use, right? So there's a little bit more community activity there, so it should be made bigger. I can see that. I can see trails, at least one trail maybe that's paved because this way it's all access, meaning that anyone can go there.
Yeah, if you were in a wheelchair right now, you
Right.
wouldn't be able to get down
That's right.
very easily to the water. And so yes, that's
Yeah.
a conversation about, do we make one of them that way, and then do
Mhm.
we leave the what do we do to maintain the unimproved trails in a little bit better? You have a little bit of creek tributaries that maybe need to be, shored up,
Right.
and stream bank, stabilization. Those types of things are what I think you're going to see the $8 million of money that Gwinnett County has. I think it's going to ultimately be, for the most part,
Mhm.
make most people happy
Right.
about what the improvements are. And maybe one other important point is, I don't think there's going to be anything in there. I don't believe that at least the committee is going to recommend that would significantly, increase vehicular traffic to the park.
Are they still looking to add more parking space there? Because
Not,
I mean,
not
I
necessarily.
really, because I mean,
They,
I don't think there's enough parking space,
right.
even for the normal use of it from our community there.
There might be some, reasonable number of additional spaces. I am talking a little bit in the eaches. I'm talking about, there's not talk about a significant number of additional parking right now. They're trying to keep away from adding a lot of additional impervious surface.
Right. Sure.
A third of the park is a conservation easement anyway.
Mhm.
I want to say half of the park is restricted because it's in the river corridor.
Right.
So this isn't wide open for Gwinnett to be able to, do anything they want anyway. It's got restrictions. But there might be some move. There could even be some movement of it. Like, for instance, there's an open air picnic pavilion there right now.
Mhm.
Maybe there's an additional one, or maybe that one is not in a great location. They're going to move it to another area of the park. They'll demo the current one and make a better,
Right.
slightly bigger one. Those are kind of the conversations being going on, but the overall nature of that park is, all indications are that it's going to maintain, again, its passive, hey, I want to enjoy nature type
Mhm.
of orientation, and that Gwinnett County's Parks and Rec Department's very receptive to that. So I do
Yeah.
think that it's headed in a good direction if that's the type of park you want it to make,
And, and I'm sure the citizens, I mean, the community would love that.
Mhm.
I know this comes at a difficult time, right? Because Jones Bridge Park was having some issues and stuff. So I can understand, I think, why some people might look at that and say, well, if we allow more people to come because of these improvements, are we going to have that same issue? But um, two
And
different,
Nextdoor, like you said, it serves a purpose. I mean, the first meeting, Nextdoor helped get more people out there, got more people interested in being on the committee.
right,
The frustration on some of this is not that it's a communication vehicle for the residents to talk, it's that people then end up posting or making wild accusations about certain things,
right,
and that gets people all worked up about something that doesn't even exist.
right,
Right now, nobody should be weighing in on Simpsonwood Park being anything more than a better version of what it currently is, because there's no indication that it won't be merely a better version of what it currently is. Wait before, people
yes.
are, wringing their
I
hands
I
and are
think some
sharpening their pitchforks and lighting their
the
torches.
pitchforks, I love it. I think people just forget that that was a Methodist retreat with essentially a resort hotel there and a pool and ground pool and some other exterior buildings for dormitories. There was a lot of stuff going on there. Maybe towards the tail end of it, not as much, but there definitely was more traffic going in there uh, before. And
Yeah.
I mean, all of that was removed. I mean, I don't know how much that cost, but quite a bit, I'm sure, north of $500,000 of that, if not more, to remove everything. Um, so yeah, I
And
agree.
it was one of also the first things that the city did after it was incorporated is the United Methodist Church decided to close that, you know,
Yeah.
camp,
Hmm.
if you will, retreat. And there was a developer who was prepared, maybe even as far as had a letter of intent to buy it and put in another, you know, subdivision of single family houses, I think you were talking 150 to or so
With
houses that they were able to
I think with the zoning that was there, even right, I don't even
correct. It would
they
have been
didn't
a
even
use
need a
by right.
rezoning. Right, they could
Yeah.
have just bought it and done similar homes to what was there.
Yeah,
Same
we would have
frontage.
had another, Revington or, Riverfield or Neely Farm or,
Or North Manor. I think because
Peachtree,
I
yeah,
think
North
those.
Manor.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was a higher density.
Yeah, so but then Gwinnett County and the city
Mhm.
jointly came to an agreement to buy it and turn it into a park.
Right.
And the city threw in a couple million, and then the county threw in the rest, made it a county park, and that's why it's a park to begin with and open to the public. And it's a great amenity, but
Yeah.
the city does have skin in the game, both because the city was
Right.
part of the purchase to prevent it from being another subdivision, and
Right.
city is protecting the interests of the greater community. And the message is pretty clear from the community, which is let's not have this thing become the significant amenity that it currently is not. Let's just try to make what was currently there better, but keep the nature. And the city will keep its eyes on it and make sure that it's not something it shouldn't be.
Yeah. And it's good because this way the improvements are done by the county through SPLOST or through the
Yes,
SPLOST money
boss.
that they have. So the city doesn't even have to they just have
Correct.
to help guide and influence what's going to be done
Yeah.
there. So that's good. Um, we're we're at the beginning of new year and stuff. There's a lot of improvements going on at the gateways of the city. Do you want to just tell us quickly a little bit about where some of these gateway entrances will be in signage?
Yeah. So, gateway signage is, those unique branded signs at gateways to cities to kind of let you know, oh, I'm entering this new city, or a different city that I'm, coming from. And we have a master plan for these gateway signs to go essentially to every major, ingress point into Peachtree Corners. Some of them are really major, like State Route 141, and
Mhm.
some of them could be somewhat minor, like a Medlock Bridge. Although that's not really minor, but
Right.
less, not state routes. So we have these going in. There's a couple of locations in which they're not necessarily at the city limits with another city, but they form a natural location for you to kind of say, hey, you're in Peachtree Corners. A good example of that would be the Paul Duke, sign coming in from the south,
Right. Mhm.
on 141. That's not at our city limits. Our city limits is down at, Amweiler,
Mm.
that area
Okay.
of the city. But we have gateways going in right now on the split of Medlock East Jones Bridge
Right.
and Peachtree Parkway. That one, is going in. That's kind of a major, call it little unimproved peninsula, or not
It's like a
peninsula, island.
triangle over there.
Yeah, the kind of that triangle island. So it offered us an opportunity to put a unique branded sign there, like the Paul Duke one right
Yeah.
there at the split. The Paul Duke one will be upgraded. That one's been hit by a lot of cars. It's getting older. It's going to get a facelift. That one will be next. But we have two going in right now. The one at the north end of that section of 141 that we just talked about, where Medlock, East Jones Bridge. And then we've got one coming in from the Dunwoody, Sandy Springs area where Spalding and
Wilton Bridge.
no, Spalding and what's the one that runs along our city limits in Dunwoody?
Oh, it's not Winter's Chapel though. No.
Winter's Chapel.
Is it
Thank
Winter's
you.
Chapel?
Just had a senior moment there. Yeah. Winter's Chapel, Spalding,
Uh,
coming into the city either
right.
from
Okay.
Dunwoody off of Winter's Chapel or
Just before where they did the improvement of that bridge.
That's correct. So if you were on Spalding coming in from Sandy Springs, on the right, you got Winter's Chapel coming in, you got a church there right at the corner.
Yes.
Right there, we've got a monument sign. And we have, the master plan has them slated to go all over the city like that. We just, we're pacing ourselves. It costs money.
Yeah.
We have to acquire property in some cases because there's not enough room in the public right of way, or there's some utility constraint or something. So it's not quite as easy as just planting a flag.
Yeah. Sure.
But the branding of these things will look like the top lanterns of the Ped Bridge.
Oh, that makes
That's
sense.
the
Sure.
branded, yeah, that's the branded. So
Yeah, that makes sense. So, talking about acquisition land and stuff like that as well. I know that part, and we discussed this before. I don't know if there's any more news on it, but going down Peachtree Corners Circle towards after west of Holcomb Bridge Road, I think there was going to be some pocket parks created in those areas or spaces for playgrounds and such. Has there been any more news on that, or?
oh yeah, so Peachtree Corner Circle in between, Peachtree and I guess now just Peachtree Boulevard, not Industrial Boulevard, but Peachtree Boulevard and Holcomb
Yes.
Bridge Road. There's that section of, excuse me, of road, kind of got a long stretch where it's 4 lanes right there.
Mhm.
And their Crooked Creek goes underneath Peachtree Corner Circle there. We're acquiring and we're finalizing the acquisition of the north side of that stretch, and we're putting in a trail hub for our multi-use trail, which is going to be running along Crooked Creek.
Okay.
We're going to be putting in a trail hub there where you can drive there, park your car at a parking lot. There'll be, bricks and mortar restroom, some playground amenities,
Right.
maybe some picnicking, pavilion type of stuff. And then the trail will end up going right along there. So you could park your car there and walk the trail ultimately, or just go there to use the facilities.
Mhm.
It will help serve all those apartments that are in that outer Peachtree Corner Circle area. So it's
Right.
serving multiple purposes, but that money has been appropriated and is ready. We're in acquisition and design right now.
Are there part of the other construction thing going on? I know there was budget approved for what was called or is called Mobility Hub and Technology Park. So there was, I think there was it a first read, or maybe it was approved the budget for that? Is there any timeline?
It was, that's where, let's see, is it
It's near Bright.
Tech Park South and Research Court,
Yes.
I believe. No, yeah, it is Research Court.
Just
I,
near Bright Star, where Bright Star is,
yes.
office.
And the Curiosity Lab and really the city are jointly putting a couple of things there. We're making that a hub for all things EV.
Mhm.
So the bus to charging stations to e-bikes, e-scooters. And then we're putting in a gathering space for people who work in Tech Park
Okay.
to go. There'll be free 5G wireless hotspot there. We're putting in a food truck court so that, again, there's an opportunity for people who work in Tech Park to maybe at certain days not have to go out into that river of cars that are
Sure.
Peachtree Parkway or Peachtree Boulevard.
Uh-huh.
And then it's as part of Tech Park, it's a way to gather people together and get them to the create the energy and the synergy of employees that are working in like industry, and that's the whole purpose of creating a technology park to begin with.
Yeah, love that idea. I know the city's working on some new events and stuff. Anything new there though? I know there was there was a 5K race at one point with Wervin, I think the company was. And but there was a company run 5K race. And I think we talked a little bit about that, about how that was a good testing to see if something similar can be done. But anything new that you can share that event wise that's coming?
Well, we do have two additional concerts
Hmm.
that are going to be added to the calendar. I believe there's potentially going to be a joint Peachtree Corners Festival and one of our big concerts to be on the same weekend
Oh, cool.
to create
Yeah.
some synergy there. Your publication itself will be coming up with our event calendar, correct?
Yes. Correct. Yeah. We're going to have a special issue, I believe. Not sure what month it is, but it'll be sometime in the spring, talking about everything that's going to be upcoming through the rest of the year. And then we'll have another one, I think, in the fall about fall events and stuff.
The events, I know that my communication director, Louis Vela, and his staff work hard on the musical groups that they've got to really kind of get something for everybody,
Mhm.
Types of music for everybody.
Can't wait. Yeah.
And so we're looking forward to, with your help, getting that special event calendar out. We've got a lot of, cooler stuff. We're still in talk to maybe do, another version of the sci-fi festival. We got the criterium. There may be a running race that's jointly with the criterium.
Right. So
Different things like that.
Criterium's coming back. Yeah, that's coming back, I guess, Criterium. And the Atlanta Sci-Fi Film Festival is coming back. Cool.
Yeah, it looks like it. So yeah, a lot of events. I mean, that's the whole purpose of having community gathering space and the ability to do certain things is to provide things for the community. The forum also is doing some unique stuff.
Yes. Yeah, got a calendar from them, and we're going to be
Yep.
promoting some of that stuff through that special edition as well. So,
And we've also made sure that there's no overlap, that we're
mm,
filling in. So really, we're starting to get to where if you wanted to keep your world pretty tight to Peachtree Corners, there's going to be something every weekend
yeah,
or somebody to do. So yeah, I mean, we look forward to 2025 and
yeah,
continue to expand our community offerings.
yeah. There's going to be a lot more stuff coming in. I think other private companies are doing some things that are coming up this year as well. So, great. But this was good to have you back. It's been a while since we've had you, but Sean Adams has been filling the space a little bit, talking about development and stuff with us. So we're going to be doing some more with them as well. But Brian, I appreciate you coming out and, giving us all this information, setting us straight on some things. I always appreciate the work you do, you and city council people and the mayor. I mean, it's, you could always have a good discussion about pros and cons on things. And, I think you all are doing a great job though, overall. So,
Well, and again, I say I thank you every time, but you provide a great vehicle to do that. One other thing of note is here within the next 4 to 6 months, we'll be done building from scratch a really good city app.
that's right.
And
Lewis was
so
telling
that'll
me.
be another resource for people in the community to use to, get accurate information, communicate with the city, learn things, so.
And this is a whole new app from scratch versus the app that's been used. Okay.
That's correct. The old app was done from a cookie cutter. We're building this one from scratch with some of our partners in Curiosity Lab that have some innovative approaches to communicating with residents that really didn't exist if it hadn't been for the innovative ecosystem we've created here.
Can't wait to, once that's out, to be able to talk about that too, and about what people can
Yep.
use it for.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of interactiveness on there. But all right, cool. Well, thank you, Brian. Appreciate you being with me. Everyone, thank you for joining us. Don't forget our corporate sponsors, EV Remodeling and Vox Populi. Check them out. I'll have their links in the show notes, and you'll probably see the logos below here. And depending on where you are, you might want to subscribe to these podcasts, whether it's on YouTube or follow us on Facebook and Instagram, or even Spotify or iHeartRadio. So thanks for being with us. Brian, hang in there for a second. Everyone, thanks again. Enjoy the new year.